Welcome back. Today we're looking at a set of excerpts about the accidental explosion at the Nowgam police station in J&K, which tragically killed 9 people, but also exposed this massive white-collar terror module involving doctors and a huge cache of explosives.
Yeah, a really complex piece.
It is, and let's just dive right in. The first thing that really jumps out at me is the structure. The current structure sacrifices the immediate clarity of the national security threat by prioritizing the casualties of the accidental Nowgam blast over the high-stakes nature of the seized material that caused it.
Right, and I get the impulse, you lead with the human tragedy. It's emotionally arresting.
Sure.
But the material immediately kicks off with the discovery of 7 bodies, the unidentified deceased. And by doing that, the explosion itself becomes the main event.
When it's actually the consequence of the main event.
Exactly. The really significant context, that staggering 360 kilograms of explosives, the sophisticated terror module, all of that gets sort of relegated to later paragraphs.
It just makes the reader work too hard. You hit them with the emotional impact first, and then they have to piece together why it happened and why it matters on a larger scale.
You're forcing them to solve a puzzle just to understand the stakes.
So what's the fix? I mean, do we just get rid of that powerful human opening entirely? How do you balance the investigative urgency with that emotional core?
You don't get rid of it, you reframe it. The suggestion is to resequence the introduction so you establish the monumental scale of the investigation first.
Okay.
Make the accidental blast a direct, tragic consequence of the sheer magnitude of that intelligence operation. The goal is to maximize the sense of urgency right from the start.
So you're not just telling a story about an explosion, you're telling the story of how close the country came to something much, much worse.
Precisely.
So concretely, you could start by highlighting the scope of the seizure. That 360 kilograms of explosives, the ammonium nitrate, potassium nitrate, all of it. You foreground the chemicals that were seized when they busted that white-collar module, the one linked to Dr. Ganaie and Dr. Syed.
Yes. And from there, you transition directly. You say, this massive, volatile cache of material was being sampled or stored at the Nowgam police station, and that led directly to the accidental blast that killed 9 people.
That causal link is so much stronger.
It is. It immediately elevates the piece from, a local tragedy report to a critical investigative deep dive. The reader understands instantly those 9 deaths were the cost of containing a much bigger threat.
Right. The stakes are immediately clear. Okay, that leads right into the second point, which is about the module itself. The most compelling and original angle here, the radicalization of highly educated professionals, specifically this medical community linked to Al-Falah University, is present, but it just doesn't feel like it's being fully utilized as the central investigative thesis.
I agree completely. That's the chilling headline, isn't it? But the details about the doctors, Ganaie, Saeed, Nadi, all of them, and the paramedic turned imam, Malvir Fan Ahmad, they're scattered.
They're all over the place.
Yeah, they're spread across different sections. The bust, the poster investigation, the Delhi Red Fort link, it just dilutes the impact.
It does. And there's this mention of the imam being involved in radicalizing doctors, but it's treated almost like a side note.
Like a logistical detail.
Yes. Instead of being the core, unsettling driver of this whole network, this isn't just about moving chemicals, it's deep institutional penetration.
Exactly. You have this powerful narrative thread of a terror module operating inside professional circles, and it's getting lost. The weakness here is that the piece isn't screaming the profile of the suspects from the rooftops.
So the suggestion is to concentrate and foreground all those details.
Absolutely.
Use the arrests of the doctors, their university connection, to frame the entire investigation as a deep dive into sophisticated recruitment from the very beginning.
That's the key. You have to weave these connections together early to shock the reader. For instance, you can explicitly link the chemicals found at Dr. Ganaie's rented house to the network that was already revealed by the Delhi Red Fort blast.
Where Dr. Omar Anabi, who was also connected to Al-Falah.
Yes, drove the car with the explosives.
That continuity is gold.
It shows a pattern. It's not just a couple of isolated incidents.
Right. And then you use the detention of the other doctors, Mushtaqim, Muhammad, Hayat, for being in frequent contact with Nabi.
That immediately underscores the breadth of the network. It raises that critical so what question.
How vulnerable are our professional institutions to this?
Exactly. That is a much more potent story than just chemicals were found. You're investigating a terror cell hidden in plain sight, powered by the educated elite. That's the story you need to tell.
Yeah, that really elevates the entire piece. Okay, let's pivot to the immediate aftermath of the blast. While the facts are there, the casualty count, the investigation starting, key details about the human element and the rescue effort well, they feel a bit general. It reduces the impact.
When you read about a blast aftermath, you expect visceral, grounded detail to really sell the severity of it.
Right.
But here, the material just repeats that the deceased were yet to be identified. It never gives any context for why. Was it a forensic issue? Was the blast so intense that identification was nearly impossible? We don't know.
And even more importantly, there's that critical line that small successive explosions prevented the bomb disposal squad from going in immediately.
That's a huge point.
It is, but it lacks grounding. It just leaves you with this kind of vague sense of danger, instead of a sharp, technical picture of what was actually happening on the ground.
You need to clarify what made that situation so unstable for the first responders. Why couldn't the BDD, the bomb disposal squad, do their job?
We absolutely do. The suggestion, then, is to provide that clarifying context. Either give a brief, powerful reason for the difficulty in identifying the bodies, or, and I think this is more critical, explain what was causing those small, successive explosions.
That detail transforms a simple statement about a delay into a vivid explanation of an ongoing hazard.
Let's focus on those explosions, because that's the most dramatic element right there.
Right. If the investigation showed that specific, highly volatile components from that 360-kilogram cache, like, say, residual ammonium nitrate or sulfur, were still combusting,
Still reacting.
then you need to say that. Briefly indicating that specific risk would powerfully explain why they couldn't rescue injured personnel right away.
It completely changes the narrative. Instead of just saying the BDD couldn't go in, you're telling the reader why. You're telling them the very chemicals they were supposed to be securing were still actively trying to kill them.
It grounds the scene in a terrifying reality. It justifies the delay, and it makes the aftermath feel immediate and incredibly dangerous, not just tragic in hindsight.
It creates that sense of a continuous threat. The main event might be over, but the danger is still very, very real.
It lets the reader understand the environment was still toxic, still explosive. It just raises the stakes significantly.
This is a really powerful set of recommendations. The source material is strong, but I think these three adjustments could really sharpen it. So just to recap, we focused on three main areas. First, restructuring the narrative to establish causal priority.
Right. Lead with the massive terror module and the explosive seizure before you get to the tragedy of the blast.
Second, maximizing that unique and frankly shocking angle of white-collar radicalization. Centralize the story of the doctors, the imam, and the Al-Falah University network.
Make that sophisticated recruitment the true engine of the story. Don't let it be a footnote.
And third, grounding the specifics of the blast aftermath, particularly by clarifying the precise reason for the rescue delay. What chemicals, what forensic challenges made that scene so unstable for so long?
So the actionable summary is pretty clear. Re-engineer that opening to lead with the scale of the explosive seizure. Then, make the Al-Falah Doctors Network the central narrative thread. And finally, get specific details on the ongoing hazards during that rescue phase to really boost the tension.
We're looking forward to seeing how these adjustments tighten up the narrative. Send the improved material back our way and we'll continue the critique.